Ladies and gentlemen, Trump will use 41,000 hours of footage that CNN and others have not shown the public to, I believe, win his defamation lawsuit. Trump defamation suit accuses CNN of escalating slander against him over fears he will run in 24. The former president accused CNN of maliciously making false and defamatory statements about him. He is seeking $475 million in punitive damages. When we have the footage that the January committee did not want people to see. So you had Democrats who did not want to release footage. Okay, why didn't they want to release all that footage? It wasn't because of security fears. Okay, why didn't they want to release the entire picture, all the footage, all the security camera video of what took place that fateful day? I condemn that day. It was a terrible day. But there was an entire summer of curfews within cities, and I support why people peacefully demonstrated during that summer. But you had $1 to $2 billion in property damage, 14,000 arrests, curfews in every major city, not one word from Kinzinger or Cheney or CNN. In fact, the CNN journalist said, well, it's fiery but mostly peaceful. So, and that was an instant meme. So you have a situation where chaos and mayhem, if it suits CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post and Times and the entire public relations monstrosity, if it suits them politically, if it helps the Democratic Party, they're not going to condemn the mayhem, the chaos, the instability. That one day, which was terrible, yes, and again, I support why people demonstrated peacefully that summer, but that summer was full of every single day chaos, mayhem, and then you have one day of chaos and mayhem where supporters of Trump were involved, and that's all that media have focused on the past 2 years. They tried to accuse Trump of organizing an effort to overthrow the United States government. The 41,000 hours of footage will prove that is an absurd allegation. The whole thing, he was never indicted for that. The January committee couldn't find evidence that he organized anything. The Federal Bureau of Investigation exonerated him immediately, almost immediately after that day, that fateful day. But still, they investigated because that's what they do. The investigations lead to endless CNN coverage. But CNN was particularly, and MSNBC, but CNN was unique in its apoplectic coverage of Trump. Every single accusation they could make of Trump, calling him every name in the book, they did. And once we get the full footage of January, he will use that in a court of law to prove that CNN made not only absurd leaps of logic, but malicious statements against him. Okay? Now, you have to understand there's a first there is First Amendment. They're protected by the First Amendment, okay? But if if they're working in concert with Democrats, which they are, almost certainly. So here's the issue. If they're actually working with specific Democrats who hid that footage, then that's a huge boost for Trump during that within that lawsuit. That's why, like, for example, Jimmy Kimmel has producers almost certainly. Stephen Colbert has producers almost certainly. Well, we know that Colbert does have producers in contact with Democratic Congress people. But if you have talk shows or if you have pundits or sorry directors and producers at these places, CNN or Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert or Seth Meyers, or if you have people working with the Democratic Party, there could be a defamation issue there, but there also could be an FEC fine or violation. You can't work directly with a political party give free political advertising, not charge them for anything, and then just continue to take a gigantic dump on Trump every single day. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving again. We're on our way to 204,000 subscribers. He's going to sue not only CNN, he'll sue everybody. Because once the footage comes out, it's going to exonerate him even more. So people will find out that yet again, Democrats, media have accused him, not only accused him of things he didn't do, but made really slanderous and defamatory statements about him, especially regarding January. Okay, he didn't try to overthrow the country. You'd have to be a complete and utter imbecile to believe that Trump wanted to devour democracy and overthrow the country. These are the same people who never accepted Trump defeating Clinton, not even one day. And their response was, well, we had the intel agencies back our cause. So what? That is completely meaningless, and intel agencies routinely lie. So who cares? If you're believing, if you believe in utter nonsense, then you complain that Trump is making statements that aren't true. You started the whole process. If Democrats simply accepted Trump and opposed him because they don't like his policies, we had record low poverty in 2019. Okay, if they didn't like his foreign policy, which was a different foreign policy than his predecessor, which is why we have a presidential contest every 4 years, then they could have done so in a manner that is traditional. We here's why our foreign policy is better. Not accusing him of working for a country because his foreign policy was different than his predecessor, President Obama, who, by the way, came in with a reset button. President Obama came in with a Russian reset, but Bush's intel agencies didn't accuse him with a Steele dossier. With Trump, it was completely different. We've usually had a peaceful transition of power, okay? That flew out the window when President Obama started investigating Trump because he had a different foreign policy. Okay, and then the only the only justification was, well, the intel agencies say that. So hit subscribe to this channel. Go to hagoodman.com to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications. And ladies and gentlemen, the super thanks is below next to the like and the share buttons. Become part of the Patreon, my new Patreons. Thank you so very, very much. And he's going to win. He's going to eventually win these lawsuits because what's taken place is that media they have worked with the Democratic Party. Almost certainly. Okay, media have been an extension of the Democratic Party. Just like Twitter was an extension of the DNC. So you had Twitter working with specific Democrats and government agencies to silence conservative voices. This is tearing apart the First Amendment. They broke First Amendment laws. Everybody from Elon Musk to the journalists that covered the story, Matt Taibbi, all these other journalists, anyone with a functioning brain cell can see that government was involved. The problem, however, is that government wasn't involved in silencing left-leaning voices. If the government did exactly what they did with Twitter against Democrats, you'd never hear the end of it. What takes place, ladies and gentlemen, is that they treat Donald Trump in a manner they would never allow against them, okay? And they're laughing at these lawsuits, but at the end of the day, eventually he's going to win some major, major lawsuits. He could very well win this one. That's why, look, why do you think CNN is almost about to fire Don Lemon? They've already ousted Chris Cuomo and Brian Stelter. Why do you think that the network is trying to become a little bit more objective? Because they know that they've been making these defamatory statements. They know that one day someone is going to eventually win a lawsuit, just like the Washington Post lost several lawsuits regarding the Covington student. Okay, so routinely media makes absurd leaps of logic simply because it helps the Democratic Party. The video footage will show that without a shadow of a doubt that took place with Trump. Give me your thought against Trump. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. Right, I'll be back in a couple of hours. Thank